Well, over the past week or so, I've been helping out my in-laws. They had a tree that was causing some problems by their garage and by their driveway. It's just getting too big. The roots were starting to do some damage. They cut it down, and I spent a lot of time over the last week cutting it down into smaller pieces and hauling it up to the cabin to be used later on as firewood. And that's been a huge project, but I'm not quite done yet. And though I wish I would have documented all of that for you, I think you kind of get the point. But what I do want to show you is what we're going to be using, a machine that my father-in-law picked up yesterday from the Harbor Freight to take care of all of the excess sticks and branches, the smaller things that just aren't suitable to be stacked for firewood. So there's quite a bit of material here, and we went and picked up this machine yesterday. This is the Predator 212cc chipper shredder. I'll show you in a minute what it can do, but just briefly, as far as assembly goes, it was really fairly simple. There was only one minor adjustment that I had to make just because we're in a little bit higher altitude here. So when you get it out of the box, you gotta put the wheels on, the axles, washer and a pin, hold them on, and then you gotta put the front stand on, and then the handle. And then as far as assembly goes, basic assembly, you're done. If you live in higher altitude, anything above 3,000 feet, they have a carburetor jet replacement that you need to install. That way you get best performance possible. So other than that, it's pretty easy to start up. You need to put oil in there. It didn't come with oil. So oil, gas, turn the gas on, set the choke, start it up. It starts good. And then as far as use goes, you have a chute right here that you can put large branches in. It says up to 3 inches. I'll show you that that's not true. Anything over like 2 inches, it's gonna struggle. And I've got kind of a solution for it, but it doesn't take bigger pieces. The hopper up top is for the smaller stuff, like, you know, the flimsy things. You can shove them up here if you want, and then it discharges out the side. It does come with a bag if you want to bag up your material and throw it away. For us, we're just throwing it out here into the garden just because it's going to be tilled in anyways. But that's really it. That's a basic overview of the machine. Let's see it in action. So let's talk about pros and cons. First thing I'll say is you have to be patient with this machine and you have to know its limitations. If you try and push its limits, it's gonna shut off, it's not gonna work, and it's gonna cause you problems. Now, as far as putting things into the machine, I like this chute here way better than I like the hopper on top. And the reason for that is you're much more accurate when you put this in here because it's a tube. And up here, you've got this big area, and then there's just a small, you can see I've already got stuff that's just stuck in here that hasn't gone in because the hole is so small. So rather than trying to shove things in this big area to get into a small hole, it's easier just to stick it all in here and work it through that tube, and then it just discharges. Now, the biggest thing about this is it says right here next to this opening, up to 3 inches in diameter. That's just not gonna happen. I would say anything over 2.5 inches, proceed with caution. And you've got probably maybe a 3.5 inch opening here. I would take this down by half and just use that as a guide. Anything larger will jam up the machine, and you've got to ease those pieces in. And once it starts chopping them up, you got to kind of pull it out a little bit and just kind of work it in slowly. Otherwise, if it tries to take that whole piece, it's gonna jam up. You're gonna have to shut the machine off, cut the power, and then take this piece off, or get in through the hatch in the back and clear it out before you can start again. Pain in the butt. Just avoid that at all costs. It's gonna happen to you, but do your best to avoid it. Now, with that being said, I've kept a chainsaw handy, and any pieces that can be broken down, that are bent or deformed or not considerably straight, or that have thick branches coming off the sides, I make sure to trim those down, clean those up the best I can before I put them into the machine. It just saves a lot of time, makes things a lot easier. Now, if you don't have a chainsaw, then you've got to pay a rental fee and all that stuff. You've got to get yourself a chainsaw somehow. But that just adds on to the cost of this. And if you bought this, you know what it costs. This thing costs $600. Is it worth $600? I don't think so. I think it's overpriced for what it is. But it does get the job done, like I said, as long as you stay within its limitations. So if you know you're gonna be within the limitations of the machine, then sure, $600 might be worth it to you. But if you've got bigger pieces that you just can't break down for whatever reason, this isn't gonna work for you. Now, if this had a larger engine that could handle the stress of 3-inch diameter pieces, then sure, totally worth $600. If I could take a 6-foot long, 3-inch diameter branch and just let it go, and I have full confidence that it's gonna send it, then by all means, I'd pay $600 for this any day. Well, that'll go ahead and do it. Those are my thoughts on the Harbor Freight Special, the Predator 212cc chipper shredder. And I've got a little bit of a pile left here. That big pile's mostly gone. I've just got some small twigs and stuff left here. Not a big deal. But this is what's left over, and the majority of this is gonna go into the trailer, and it's gonna go up to the cabin with the rest of the stuff that came off of that tree. But if you have any questions or comments, let me know, and tell me if you've had any experience with something like this before. And I'd be curious to know what else is out there on the market, what might be even better than that. I'm sure there's plenty. But that'll go ahead and do it. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.